touch on it, but it's the one that I asked earlier this year when I was up to you. Have you ever feel like giving up or feel like taking a break, like going home when he's back to his senses, then you come back? And if you ever felt like this, what changed your perspective and made you work towards your marriage?
I had a different perspective on marriage when we first got married. I remember maybe the first 2 or 3 years, I don't know what brought it to my head. I would even say, imagine if I was in an accident and I got paralyzed or whatever. I think it would be better for me to go and have my parents look after me, because that's not what you signed up for. Do you get what I'm saying? You look married, a healthy woman or whatever. And I didn't have that understanding, because I was just thinking, shame, it's not fair on the other person, because I know it's not easy to look after an ill person or a disabled person. And he kept on saying to me, no, I mean, it can't be like that. I mean, but you're married for life, and that's how the covenant is, and the commitment is for lifelong. And that's something that I've also learned in my marriage. So then it just stuck in my head that, hey, we can fight, but nobody's going anywhere. I mean, if you've got that at the back of your mind, yes, we won't like each other today, but nobody's going anywhere. This is a lifelong thing. If I'm gonna tie you to this chair while you're thinking, while you're working things in your mind, I think once there's that end goal, or that's the focus in your marriage, that it's a lifelong relationship. So whatever those are now, that will bring you back when you're thinking of those kinds of things of thinking, maybe I must go home or whatever. You actually will express that to your partner, because remember, you are in a commitment, which will then stop you. Do you get what I'm saying? In as much as you may feel like doing it, but what I'm saying is that you'll get scared, because you're thinking, no, it can't be, because it means I'm breaking, my commitment to the other person. So you actually end up saying, this is how I feel. I feel like I just want to break or whatever. Then that your partner will then be able to assess the situation, because they'll see at what point you are at. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is that once you know that this is a lifelong commitment, it just makes you stay. So whatever will come up, whatever challenges, no matter how overwhelming they are, but your covenant will override anything else that will happen in between that. Because at some point, maybe he may even say, no, go, you're not going because you're fed up, leave, or whatever. These people who are doing that to people is just to be in a safer space until we can be together. They talk about what do they say? Men going to a cave. Do you know what I'm saying? Because men don't always. Sometimes they also need time out to think. The way that they're wired and things like that. So it could be that no, you will go, but you won't go on a bad note. But it's just that you just need that break or that assistance or just a different perspective. Do you know what I'm saying? So it won't be that you're going because you are angry or whatever. It may actually be a negotiated thing, and then you come back here. So that's what I'm saying. The just that thing in the back of mind that this is a lifelong covenant will always override however you're feeling, because you are accountable. Like what we're saying, we strive to please God. So once we put God first, we'll always know who we're accountable to. So those are the things. It's like your conscience. The Holy Spirit will always guide you to say, no, I can't go, because we're all capable of doing anything if you think about it. But because we sealed with the Holy Spirit, He always acts as our guide and our conscience to then, so that we're not abrupt, we don't lose our self-control, we don't, act beyond what we thought we would do. So I think, I would sum it up in that way.
No, very well summed up. In my case now then, I never even gave it a thought to go home at any point in time. My father would have asked me and said, what is this? He would have counseled me, and that very same day, he would probably bring me back. It's a different story when there's abuse of some type happening, and you need a time out, and you need to go be in a safe place. But as I said earlier on, your marriage is your safe space. That is where you can fall hard into those loving open arms of your husband. Because whatever the mistakes are that you are making, or how you are butting heads, or how the fight is going, and if it's not resolved today, the hope is always that it's going to be resolved tomorrow. Because you are working towards making heaven your home and helping him make heaven his home. So that's the main goal. All these other things, they just fall into place once you know that that's the goal.
So since my home, me and my husband is a safe place, it's okay to be vulnerable in it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you don't have to be ashamed.
No.
Correct. Okay.
Remember, the more you show your vulnerability, the more he receives it, and the more it empowers him to play the role that God always intended him to play. Because you are the weaker vessel, the Bible says. Because you are the weaker vessel, you are showing him this is the role that God wants you to play in our marriage. If you can be vulnerable in front of him, he's going to step to the plate. I need to be the safe space for my wife and for my family. But we don't give our men that chance. We don't give them that chance.
Like she's originally said to you, one of the questions that you must look for a husband who puts God first, which then means he won't use your vulnerabilities to manipulate the situation, you know. So because he knows he's accountable to a bigger being than myself or anybody else, or you know, the other guys will know that he's macho and you know he's in control of his marriage or whatever. So he knows that he then, and you also feel safe that he's not going to use your mistakes or you know to then abuse you or you know manipulate you. So it's his responsibility as well. You know, he's got a responsibility to then handle you with care, or handle me and my you know issues with care.
Okay. Ever felt insecure? There's always a prettier lady than you.
Tell me about it.
There's always a smarter lady, or the one who always have everything in order more than you do. Or have you ever felt jealous? Maybe your husband does something that makes you feel a sort of jealous. And I will try to explain that by there's something that Dintle used like to do to me. He blow the kisses. And then on Sunday, there was a young lady sitting in front of us, a very, very young lady. And she was doing this, he was doing the same thing to this baby. I was like, isn't that our special thing? I'm sharing it now with them. I didn't even talk about it.
That is what I was saying, the communication is important. Because now you should have said to me when you got home, cheaty baby. I thought that was our thing. Then he's also going to be shocked and think, I don't really, that is our thing. Because that's our thing. We need to keep the things that's ours. We need to keep it for us. But now you didn't say anything.
I didn't say anything.
He's going to he doesn't know that that's how you feel. You don't expect him to know what's going on in your head. Hey, he's got superpowers, but that's not one of them.
Yeah. So, have you guys ever felt insecure or jealous do you overcome that?
I felt very insecure and very jealous many times. Believe it or not, I can be insecure and jealous. But that was a long time ago. That was before I knew that I don't need to feel like that. You know, unfortunately, we all come into our marriages with baggage. It's not as if, okay, I married the first man that I ever fell in love with, but we broke up several times before we eventually got married. And in the times that we broke up, he had girlfriends, I had boyfriends, and those, you come into the marriage with a baggage of those previous relationships. So now, in a previous relationship, you were cheated on. In a previous relationship, somebody more beautiful, smarter, younger, or whatever, stole your guy. In a previous relationship, this and that and that and that happened. So now you bring those things to the marriage. And in those first years, when you're still negotiating things, the jealousy is going to be there, the insecurity is going to be there. But you must know that from all the other 150 or 200, whatever, however many girlfriends the guy had, he chose you. So if he chose me, then those other people should be jealous.
Not you.
Not me. Because he chose me. So, but it also took a while for me to realize that. Funny story. How long could we have been married? Probably. Okay, James was born already. My son was born already, so it could have been like 3 years or so if we were married. And this one day, or yeah, Uncle Jimmy called me Paul like 3 times. 3 times in a conversation. I said, "What's this?" They worked together. So he was talking to her the whole day. And came home and it was still Paul. Really? And it could have turned out very bad. It could have turned out very bad. But it was just, you come to the realization, oh, okay, it's that girl that is with the whole day at work. So, it's nothing. It's not as if she's on his mind, because that's where we decided. We decided.
Yeah.
Oh, so now I'm Paul. So you've got her on your mind all the time. And it's just, it's not that. We make things in our head, we make it bigger than it actually is. And it's the nature of a woman. We just have to get past those things that the world sees as acceptable. We have to get past those things because we've been called to a higher calling. I must give my husband the benefit of the doubt. He called me Paul because Paul was the last girl that he spoke to at work. She's not thinking of it, it's just a word that rolled off his tongue first. And that is, and we move on from there. But we can blow it up into all sorts of different things and it can become ugly before you know it. So yeah, you will get the insecurities and the jealousy and so on. But it mustn't last throughout your marriage. You must know that he chose you. Main thing.
Yeah, because like you said, I think it's mostly because of our past things that happened in the past. But if you look carefully, you find that there's no reason where you can say, you did this, this is why I'm like this. There's really nothing that you can point on.
No, she summed it up. You know, you're bound to be like that, but you're gonna get to a point where you know that hey, I'm the girl for this role.
Yeah.
This role is the guy for me, the
Excellent.
perfect one for me. You know, and you're just comfortable. Yes, you will go through those insecurity thing, but like things that matter, then we must then express them. You know, like we're chatting on Sunday, like what Noel said. You know, some of us are friendly. You know, do you get what I'm saying? And you know, sometimes we just have to communicate to say, no, you know, if you do it this way, maybe it's not so great. Because he was chatting about how even when you are a counselor, you know, when you're counseling, when you're a married man and you're counseling other women maybe who've got marital problems, it's always important to go with your wife because besides anything, not that that person intended to be attracted to you or whatever, but it's just safer. Do you get what I'm saying? So the other things that even their husbands learn, you know, do you get what I'm saying? They easily express them to say, okay, no, I never looked at it this way, but you know, this is how I see it now. And you know, those things, you know, we're free to discuss them with them. If maybe the husband hasn't realized that, you just say, you know, this is what I've learned, this is how I know it, and I don't think it's actually good because you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position, you know, if you do those kinds of things. You know, like what Dawn was saying, if there's something is our thing, you know, it's our thing. I mean, I've got one example where Noel bought me and his mom the same perfume for Valentine's Day. And I didn't like it, you know, because I said, I mean, it can't be. I'm your wife, you know, she's your mother. It's my favorite perfume, you know. I mean, it's our thing. And I mean, he understood, you know, do you get what I'm saying? He hadn't thought of it, you know, he just thought, you know, he's buying for whoever, but to me it mattered, you know. It's my thing. He knows I love that scent, you know. You know, it was just, you know, and I expressed it to him, and then he actually said, "Oh yeah, no, you are right." You know, do you know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
those kinds of things, I was, you know, it was still early on in our marriage, but I mean, I just thought, no, I must express it because you can't just brush things off because they then, you know, build ill feelings, you know, in those kinds of things. Yeah, and you know, I mean, what we spoke about even in terms of in-laws and those kinds of things, you also don't want other things to then, you know, make the thing bigger than it actually is. Yeah.
But you hear what Paul said now, then. You need to express it. You have to say. You can't want to be sitting there and think, I love this man. That's the thing. He's not thinking like that. It's just to him, it's just a nice thing. It's not a big deal, but then when you tell him that it's a big deal to me, it's going to be, he's going to see it differently.
Okay. This one is a long one. But this is not the case for both of you. But I'm gonna ask it for the benefit of the viewers. There are many reasons why one party, in this case husband, may not want to put work into marriage. So when that happens, according to your lived experience, do you think or do you agree that submission of a wife goes a long way? Does the sweet answer really turn away wrong, as the proverb says?
Definitely. Not always easy, but definitely. I mean, the Bible teaches us that in our quiet way, because that's how God made us, we will be a positive influence to those. It's not always easy, especially when things are happening to us. But like we said, somebody must start. You know, husbands must love their wives, wives must submit to their husbands, but somebody must start. Do you know what I'm saying? So if the other party is not starting, it won't harm. I won't melt. You know, if I start, because I know that the benefit will be better. Do you know what I'm saying? Unlike just sulking and waiting. That no, but you was also instructed or commanded to love me. You know, do you know what I'm saying? But it definitely is like that. It's not easy, I know, but just take the first step. Just put that toe in that cold water. it will fall into place. It truly is like that.
And you know, you reminded me of what Brother Jimmy was saying on Sunday, that speaking about the book of Ephesians, that the husbands love their wives. If you're selfish, then be selfish with your wife. Let nothing stop you from loving your wife. And I thought, where's Declare? And I was still looking around and I said, wives must. And I was like, okay.
That's how it is. Like, we want to focus on what the lady must do.
Yeah.
But we must do what we can do. Bible also says, and this principle applies, it's not exactly the same, but the principle applies. It says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You do what you can do. This is what I can do. I'm not going to, like Auntie Pearl says, wait for Uncle Jimmy to love me. I'm going to submit to him all the time. Submit, respect. And how can you not love somebody who submits and respects you like that? It's what's that? A circle. It's a circle.
Because we always say it's easier to submit when they love you.
It's also easier for them to love us
When we submit. So it closes the circle.
From what you said about working out your own salvation, one of my favorite verses also in the Bible, Mark 14, I think it's verse 8, where the woman who poured that perfume on Jesus' feet and wiped it off. And when they were mourning and Christ said she did what she could. There's always something we can do, and we must do what we can. We must do what we can. Because we're all full of excuses in terms of lots of things. You get what I'm saying? But in a marriage situation, I must do what I can, and there's a lot that I can do. I don't have to wait for the other party.
Okay. And Brother Jimmy is dealing with conflict, but I must still ask you this. How did you deal with conflict all these years, or how are you still dealing with it? If there's a method that you dealt with it and didn't work, and there's a method that works, please share it.
You will always deal with conflict, but it gets easier. In the beginning, this conflict's doing. So, I'm upset about something, and I mean, surely he must know that he snapped at me, or he must know that, he didn't compliment me on my, hairdo or whatever, We always waited, in the beginning. But I think with time, you just learn, and I think most of the things that we're learning in our marriage is that, we must communicate, we must communicate, and nothing's going to happen to me if I make the first start. And for me, what's been good for me, I think, in these, as our marriages goes, is that I don't like conflict. It actually gives me palpitations. I don't like it. I just want it resolved. So it pushes me also to then get it sorted. Then I don't have time to sulk because I just don't like it. It hurts me physically. So, and I think it's a good thing. Because then it pushes me to do something about it. So that's that's the benefit of it. But communication, sulking doesn't work. And, giving up or not even expressing how you feel, we must express it. And I think with time we learn that we must do it gently. We must do it in a loving way. Not in a confrontational or wanting to prove the other person wrong or whatever. And then I think it's all part of learning because you'll know what doesn't work, because you'll be confrontational and you'll get confrontation back. Do you get what I'm saying? So, but what I'm saying is that I'm so glad in the, that it just I do not like conflict. It's a good thing. You would think maybe after a long time of marriage you should be settled, you should be able to deal with it easier or whatever. But I think that's my way, or that's how God helps me to then deal with it. Because it just hurts me. It just I don't want to go back to a house where I know no sulking. Some people, they harbor, those things. It's just heavy on me, and it forces me, and I'm thankful for that, because then I'm not in that situation for very long, because I just want to get out of that.
It doesn't matter who's wrong.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Because remember, dealing with it doesn't mean I'm gonna lie and say I'm wrong. You know, I must, even when my voice is shaking, I must just find a way of chatting about it. Or you know, sometimes we also overthink things. That, you know, maybe I did something wrong and I didn't realize, and then I see that, you know, the mood has changed in the home. You know, once then you know, you think back, and then as soon as I realize, then I must ask, you know, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I, you know, snap or whatever? Then you know, we can then talk about it. You know, because sometimes maybe we're not even aware that we, you know, you did something wrong.
With me now again, something that didn't work, Sophia, is that sulking story. Does not work. This man that I am married to, the Lord gave to me, he would ask me, what's wrong? Talk to me. I don't know what you are thinking. And it took a while for me to realize that he really doesn't mean because we're married now we have one baby. It took a while for me to get to the understanding. He really doesn't know what is going on in my head. Although we finish one another's sentences, there's other things in my head also that he's not aware of. So it took a while for me to realize that I need to express how I feel. And there were never raised voices in my family. Like I never heard my father speak loudly to my mother, or my mother shout at my father, or we never heard that type of thing. And my husband didn't come from a vocal family, you know. They would argue, not as in an ugly argument, man, but they passionately put their stance. This is how I feel, like this. And they will put their argument across passionately. And it was like I would be shaken. What is this? This mess? And it was nothing like that. I need to understand that is when he's excited or he's passionate about something, his voice is going to, because then I would snap and say, don't talk to me like that. Then he's like, what? How am I talking to you? I'm just saying what I feel. And we have to get to understand that this is how you are used to communicating. It makes me uncomfortable. Let's find another way of communicating. So, but it took years for us to get to that point. Again comes back to, we have to talk about it. And we can't let the sun go set without us. Okay, not necessarily the sun setting, because sometimes the arguments happen after the sun setting. But we can't go sleep if we haven't spoken about it. If we haven't come to a conclusion that this isn't something that is going to cause us to drift apart. Because we need to work towards one another, not away from each other. So yeah, communication. That's probably the best thing, the best advice that you can get in your marriage, ever. And remember what Uncle Johnny said on Sunday? Love is a choice
That you keep on making.
Every day you make that choice. I'm going to love
Regardless
this
of
man.
your feelings.
I'm going to love him.
You. And he also said if you're lazy, don't be married.
Goes without saying. Lazy, rather stay single.
Don't get married.